Hey, welcome. This is Miss Ray here. This video is for you if you missed either Monday or Tuesday of class this week. So I always start my week with just going over what you're going to be expected to do this week. So this week, in your first live day of the week, which would be Monday or Tuesday, and this video is if you missed your live session. In that class, you will be working on a bell ringer called Characteristics of Life, and then we will also be doing a more independent activity called Is It Living Activity. This week, you should have already watched the video notes for Characteristics of Life. If you haven't watched those video notes on Characteristics of Life, make sure you do that first. Otherwise, these terms and words and things we're going to be discussing are going to be really new for you. So make sure you watch that video first and answer the questions in the video so you get credit for doing that. And also so that you have a little bit of background information before you start working on this work. Your independent work on Monday, Tuesday, depending on which day is your independent day, you have part 1 of the unit review. This is a worksheet and it has a little bit about characteristics of life, a little bit of graphing, a little bit of experimental design, picking out the different variables in an experiment. Then in our second live day of the week, again, your second live day will either be Wednesday or Thursday, depending on your class. In your second live day of the week, you will be working on a mastery check, and then we'll be playing a Kahoot in preparation for your test on Friday. And then during your second independent work day of the week, there is a Quiz-Is review. A Quiz-Is is kind of like a Kahoot, but it's more individually paced, and together these review items, so the Unit 1 Part 1 review, the Kahoot, and the Quiz-Is will all work toward preparing you for your test or assessment, which is going to be on Friday. So Friday's work is the scientific investigation test. The format of your test will include multiple choice questions, as well as matching, and I believe there are 2 short answer questions at the end. At the end of this week, we're also going to be posting video notes in preparation for class next week. We'll be sure that we put the due date and when you need to have those watched by. So again, this week your live activities are going to be the Characteristics of Life bell ringer, which we're going to work on here in a second. The Is It Living activity, Kahoot review, and Characteristics of Life's mastery check. The independent activities for the week are Part 1 review, the Quiz-Is review, and then you will have your test and video notes on Friday. At any point, remember, please visit your teacher's office hours. We are here to help, and right now, we're not getting too many people coming in. We want to see you, so if you are feeling backed up on any of this work, if you're confused, frustrated, anything at all, please come to office hours. We are here to help you. So I'm going to get started with this Characteristics of Life bell ringer. I'm going to go ahead and open up my copy here. So go ahead, pause the video, give this bell ringer your best shot. So go ahead, pause, do the best that you can, and we'll come back and go over it. Alrighty, so hopefully you pause and you have some of your answers. I'm about to review them for you. All of these terms came directly from the Characteristics of Life video notes. When I do matching, I typically like to read this side and then try to match the definitions. So the passing of genes from parents to offspring. So this might be why a child looks like a parent. This one is going to be heredity. The passing of traits from parents to offspring. Heredity means you pass down your traits to your children. Letter B. All of the chemical reactions in the body. All of the chemical reactions in the body are known as your metabolism. Your ability to make, use, process energy is your metabolism. Letter C, making more of your own kind. Making more of your own kind, in other words, just means making babies, which would be reproduction. Option D, reproduction involving one parent. Some simple organisms like bacteria, or even other organisms like certain types of corals, reproduce asexually by splitting in half, budding off, or making identical copies of themselves. So reproduction involving one parent is asexual reproduction. For choice letter E, reproduction involving two parents is sexual reproduction. So reproduction that involves two parents is sexual reproduction. Letter F, the ability to maintain a stable internal state. That is homeostasis. The way that I like to remember homeostasis is homeostasis. The ability to stay the same or have a stable internal state. So when I think of homeostasis, I think of myself as a human. I need to regulate my body temperature. I need to regulate my blood pressure or my heart rate. If it gets too high or too low, I could die. So I have to have a stable internal state. And then letter G, all living things are made up at least one cell. That is cellular organization. This means all living things are made up of at least one cell. Some things are made up of many, many more cells. And cells are going to be the smallest unit of life. So anything smaller than a cell is not living. And I know that there are some levels of organization that were discussed in the video notes that simply says cells make up tissues, tissues make up organs, organs make up organ systems, and all of that makes up one organism. So me, the smallest living part inside of my body is a cell. Groups of cells make my tissues. Groups of tissues make my organs, like my heart. Several of my organs make up my organ system, so my heart and all my blood vessels, that makes up an organ system. And then all of my organ systems all together make up me. I am an organism. Okay, so we're going to move down to the bottom. And there are 5 characteristics of life listed here. And my job is to match the definition or the description with which one of these characteristics of life is being described. So for number 1, the passing of genetic factors from parents to offspring. That is heredity, passing down of information from one organism to the next. That is heredity. Number 2, physical and chemical changes in an organism in which energy is released or used. Again, all the chemical reactions in my body, the ability to use energy is metabolism. So your keywords for metabolism are going to be energy, chemical reactions. Number 3, the ability to participate in growth and repair of cells, tissues, and organs. This is cellular organization. So keyword here is cells. And remember, the hierarchy of organization is cells, tissues, and organs. Number 4, the ability of a body or a cell to seek and maintain a condition of equilibrium or stability within its internal environment when dealing with external change. This is homeostasis. Remember, homeostasis, the ability to be stable or stay the same. So our keywords for homeostasis are going to be words like maintain, equilibrium, stable, internal environment. So number 5, the process by which an organism makes more of its own kind. Making more of your own kind is reproduction, reproducing. Number 6, when a human steps out into the cold air, they begin to shiver in order to maintain body temperature at 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, this is an example of me trying to maintain that 98.6. If a temperature gets too high, you could potentially die. If it gets too low, you could also potentially die. So I need my temperature to be stable, which is homeostasis. Question 7. Identical twins have 99.999% of the same genes, meaning they are very, very similar, and this is due to heredity. Now, you may wonder, why, if they're identical twins, shouldn't that be 100? And it's pretty darn close to 100, but it is not exactly 100 just because of random mutation. Question 8. A raccoon is a multicellular organism with many specialized tissues and organs. So we see the word cellular, tissues, organs. That goes to cellular organization. Number 9, when you eat, the chemical energy in your food is released, allowing you to think, move, and grow. So again, we see chemical energy. That goes to metabolism. And then last but not least, number 10, your body releases insulin to lower your blood sugar back to its normal range. Keyword here, normal range, meaning I need it to be maintained, I need it to be stable. So this is homeostasis. So go ahead and submit this on Canvas. So submit this assignment on Canvas so you get your points for it. And then I'm going to introduce our next activity. All right, so after the bell ringer, the next activity that we did on Monday or Tuesday was the Is It Living activity. So if you open this up, it will bring you out to a document that looks just like this. In this activity, the first part, what you're going to be doing is trying to remember those 5 things it takes to be alive. If you were confused on those, go back to your bell ringer. They are conveniently listed right here in section 2. So in order to be considered alive, an organism must have cellular organization, homeostasis, reproduction, heredity, and metabolism. Those are your 5 that it takes to be alive. The second part of this document is going to ask you to classify these statements into either living or non-living, and all you have to do is drag them down to where they belong. Living or non-living. Part 3 has a little chart. So it has a little chart, and your goal is to determine if it's alive or not. Remember, if the item is alive, it has all 5 characteristics. If any one of these is missing, if any organism or any item on the list is missing any of these 5, it is not alive. So if you said a tree was alive, it would have all check marks. If you said a cloud was not alive, then there's going to be some negatives here because it does not have all 5 if it's not alive. And the last part is a little challenge question about viruses. We're very, very familiar with viruses these days. Some information about viruses are they have 2 parts, protein on the outside and some type of genetic information on the inside. And that could be either DNA or RNA depending on the virus. Viruses are not cells. They are not a cell. They are not made of cells in any way. They also cannot reproduce without a host. So they do not reproduce sexually or asexually, meaning the only reason a virus is able to reproduce is because it infects something that reproduces for them. So for instance, when I get sick with a virus, I am the one that's making copies of the virus, not the virus. The virus can't do it on its own, and it can't do it with another virus partner, so it can't reproduce without making something sick. So the question for part 4 is, based on this information, is a virus alive? How do you know? And be sure you list some of the characteristics of life in your answer. So remember, when you're thinking about this one, in order to be considered living, it has to have all 5 parts: metabolism, homeostasis, cellular organization, reproduction, and heredity. If it's missing one, it is not alive. So just discuss your answer on is a virus alive? How do you know with the characteristics? So once you finish this, please submit. If at any point in this you are confused or you have questions, feel free to email your teacher, drop into their office hours. Again, that's what we're here for. Please come see us so that I'm not all alone.